Welcome to episode 34 of The Leap Home, Leap of Faith.
In this week's episode, Sam must use his skills of persuasion to prevent a priest from killing a murder suspect he thinks is set to avoid justice. With one life and one conscience on the line, Sam faces a race against time and an oncoming train to make a difference. But can he succeed, or will the killer face a messy end?
We hardly notice the shaky legs,
or your heavy breathing,
the sweaty palms,
or the crack in your voice.
Good afternoon, Ian. How are things?
Not too bad. You seem a bit nervous this week, though.
Let's not mention your palms.
Yeah, your voice. This week we're taking the listeners to church.
For the third time in a religious setting.
At least.
I thought this episode had more in common with the right hand of God as opposed to thou shalt not.
It had quite a lot in common with the right hand of God.
Yeah.
We'll probably touch on quite a lot of those.
I think we will. There's a couple of inconsistencies that are requiring a discussion. But I did like this episode. I thought it was fun.
Good. I did kind of feel, though, that Sam was just being Sam. He made no effort to try and be Frank. Like, at all, at any point in the episode.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
But we'll probably touch on that as well as we go through the various nooks and crannies.
Do you like a nook and a cranny?
Depends on
What's
the
your favourite?
circumstances. In fact, I really don't like nooks and crannies. I get claustrophobic.
Cranny? You never use that word on its own, do you? I mean, nook,
Would you?
Yeah, you can speak about a nook, but I've never heard anyone refer to a cranny.
That sounds like a Scottish word, does it?
It does, yeah. Who knows?
Well, that'll be available information for somebody. It's not interesting enough for us to look it up, though.
No, it won't be.
Something that is interesting is our social media accounts. That's a stretch, I'm sorry.
It's a lie.
Yeah, very much so. But if you want to engage with us there, you can find us at Leap Home Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. We're at The Leap Home on Facebook. There's show notes for every episode on theleaphome.com. And 1 week early, you can catch every episode on our YouTube channel, Columbo Podcast Productions. Please leave ratings, reviews. You can subscribe and set alerts on those places as well. That'd be great. Thank you. This is the public service announcement.
Anything else you want to say?
There's not.
Okay, let's just crack on.
After the now traditional intro, we very briefly see Sam arriving as a priest, as we saw at the end of last week's episode, and he allows an oddly aggressive groom to kiss his bride.
He's certainly annoyed. I think he's probably waiting for him to... We don't know how long he's been waiting for Sam to...
Well, it's not just that. We also come to learn it's his first wedding, so perhaps he's made some other missteps along the way.
Possibly, yeah. In any case, he mutters an "oh boy" before we have the credits, and then the date is revealed.
It's August the 19th, 1963, and we see the exterior of this church.
Yeah, we find Sam standing outside after the ceremony, thinking to himself how leaping can be a spiritual experience before being approached by a couple of old Italian sisters.
Yes, they tell him that they've been to many services in the church, and for a first wedding this wasn't a bad attempt, although they have a few critiques, as we heard at the top.
Yeah, I think they're the Moncelli sisters.
Something along those lines.
He also forgot to introduce the newlyweds.
Well, that's probably about the time that he leapt in, wasn't it?
However, he is saved by the parish priest, who interrupts and asks to see Frank in his office.
He looks almost identical to Father Todd Unctious from Father Ted, so much so that throughout my notes I've referred to him as Todd.
Did you?
I have, yeah.
Okay, that could get confusing. I thought his delivery in this first scene in the office, it reminded me a lot of Dabney Coleman. And
yes, he's got that look about him as well, yes. Minus the mask.
Yeah. And was that Murder of a Rock Star?
Yes, Columbo and the Murder of a Rock Star.
Good episode, that. I think
it's okay.
No, I think it's underrated.
Do you?
Yeah,
I suppose if you're judging by the scale of just the new ones, it's not too bad.
Yeah, it's up there for the new breed. Anyway, we're not doing Columbo at the moment.
Maybe one day.
Sam, he can't leave without putting his foot in it again.
Well, yeah, we've mentioned this in the past. He doesn't know what people know, and he makes a misstep here saying it was nice to meet these ladies.
And I'll give him that. It's the type of thing you say.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can't be too critical on this one. They point out that he's seen them in the front row of the Mass every day, and he says, meet them again, and then they express a little bit of disapproval before each walks their own way off.
So we go to the office where Sam watches, quite perplexed, is it Father McRoberts, I think we find his name is, not Todd, pours himself a massive whiskey, I presume it is, as he tells Sam that he's encountered 2 milestones that day.
Yes, his first wedding and his first encounter with the Monticelli sisters.
Now, there we go, the first encounter. So a moment ago they're expecting him to have known who they are.
Yes, well, but maybe they've had a passing hello or something in the past, or they expect him to know who they are. I don't know. Yeah, it's a bit of an odd one, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Doesn't quite line up.
Sam admits to nerves as he looks at an old photo of the priest as a young boxer, and McRoberts tells him that at least he's Italian.
Yes, because they consider being Irish a birth defect. Todd offers Sam a drink at this point to settle his nerves, but he declines, saying that he's fine now.
Yeah, and he watches the priest down it in preparation for the funeral of a youth who was hit by a train. I think this McRoberts, he baptised this kid, and he saw him, watched him grow up.
Yes, and Sam says the death was an accident and he shouldn't be so... I'm not sure what he expects from him, how he expects him to feel, but he shouldn't maybe feel as intensely about it. But
yeah. There's a bit of a turn here.
There is, because Todd says that the boy...
No, he's not. McRoberts.
Grew up walking these train tracks. He wouldn't have fallen in front of a train, and he doesn't believe it was an accident.
Now, see, I disagree with this. If you mess about and walk on train tracks every day, your odds...
Yes, if you're there, yeah.
Yeah, they must increase. The more you walk on train tracks, the more likely you are to have an accident at some point.
Yeah, and as Sam says, these things can be hard to accept, especially with someone so young.
Yeah, I think he tries to be sort of philosophical about it with him. And
has to admit that this was a cliche that he learned in the seminary.
Yeah. At this point, I think this is when we first see Sam's reflection. It's not his finest hour.
He's a bit of a chunky, baldy guy.
Yeah. He won't be trying to woo the ladies, thankfully.
That probably puts him off. Yeah, I'll not even bother.
Well, he's a priest. They shouldn't be.
Well, there's that.
Wooing the boys. I mean...
Let's not say too much.
We'll say something later on, mind you. Anyway.
We then skip ahead to this funeral at the cemetery where Sam and Todd are officiating, and you get the usual sort of religious nonsense.
Well, yes, you do get the what's the word for it other than nonsense?
It's not a eulogy. It's he is kind of giving a bit of a...
It's just... Oh, who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, but at the same time, in the graveyard, we see 2 boys. One is a bit older, his name's Tony.
Yep.
And he's breaking into a car as the younger one, Joey, shares his doubts about what they're doing.
But the older one says it's not about anything other than what they want. It steals a chain that's hanging on a
I think it's a
mirror.
Well, normally it's a St. Christopher's medal.
Right, okay.
St. Christopher, the patron saint of travellers.
Yep. Carrying folk over rivers and stuff.
Joey, he suggests...
That's the younger one.
The younger one, yeah. Visiting their father's grave, who he thinks is buried somewhere in the cemetery, but Tony dismisses this and reminds him that he's dead and can't help us now. Not really. I don't think he's...
That wasn't the point, yeah, no.
He's going to help him anyway.
Tony then says they've got someone else to be, and they head over to this funeral that Todd and Sam are officiating.
Yeah, Tony's now trying to look quite cool. He's got his sunglasses on and he's got a cigarette hanging from his lips.
We should say Tony himself's quite young. He's not an adult.
No, for me, I mean, it's weird because where they find him in his environment later on, but at this point I'm thinking he's maybe about 14, 15.
Yeah, I guess he's a bit older.
Must be, yeah.
I mean, he must be about 21 to be in a club.
I don't know. It's a sort
maybe
of
the rules are bent, I suppose, if he's a wee bit younger.
Yeah, I'm thinking he's probably about 17, 18.
Mm.
And again, we don't know what the drinking age was back in this era. Maybe it was. Maybe it went up to 21 more recently. Who knows?
As they arrive, we hear Todd saying that everyone loved Sonny, the boy who's died. He was a loving son and a dear friend, and at this point he kind of casts a glance over at Tony.
Well, I think he's a bit taken aback to see him. He certainly notices him and it unsettles him, yeah.
There's no reaction from Tony, and we hear that Sonny trusted unconditionally, and if they, as a community, failed him, they must live with the hope of forgiveness.
Yeah, for the rest of his life.
Well, he says he's going to miss Sonny personally with all of his heart. It's quite intense.
Yeah, I think we needed to find out a little bit more about this relationship. This isn't just someone who you've met. I mean, even if you were a teacher, which would be a a more sort of be a stronger relationship, we'd have thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost suspicious the way that he's speaking here.
Yeah. Well, you might think, has he fathered him?
Okay.
Well, you might. Maybe he had an affair.
Yeah, or
It's
maybe...
he loves him too much here for just someone who, like I say...
They don't introduce early enough the fact that he coaches boxing as well.
Yeah.
Because he talks at one point about Joey being a good fighter, and it's not been brought up.
No, you saw the picture earlier on, and at that point, there should have been a discussion about how...
He coaches the kids.
Yeah.
And there's no reference made to it at all, and it would simplify a lot of things, or clear up a lot of these things where...
Sure.
This is why he's got this relationship. He spends time with the children.
Yeah, sure, but that's my point. But even, this is a sports coach.
Yeah.
And even if you are, you do invest quite heavily in it, you think about all the sports coaches that you're missing for the rest of your life.
No, yeah, it's just very over the top, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, Sam, again, he notes the tension between the priest and Tony. And events take another turn when the youth approaches, I think it must be
Sonny's mother
to offer his sympathy.
She spits in his face, shouts that he's a murderer, and then starts yelling in Italian, I think.
And Sam has to step in to keep them apart.
Well, first of all, Todd steps in, and then Sam breaks that up again when Tony gets a bit aggressive and tells Tony that he's been asked to leave and he should go.
And he eventually decides that he will, but ominously tells McRoberts that he will see him around, and stalks off, leaving Joey about to say something to Sam, but then I think he changes his mind and follows his brother.
He does, and we head back to the church where Sam sees Al across the road, and we haven't seen Al before this, right? Because Sam references having seen him earlier.
Yeah.
He wasn't...
No.
We know he wasn't at the funeral because he doesn't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
So where did he see him before?
I don't know, maybe just pulling up in the car.
Yeah. Anyway, he declines Todd's offer to come indoors for a drink, but is told that there are some good sides to this job, even though it doesn't seem like it today.
Yeah.
And when he leaves, Al comes over and Sam talks to him.
Yeah, well, Al starts to do his usual sort of wise cracking, but Sam stops him when he tells him that he just buried a 12-year-old kid.
Yeah, so Al obviously didn't know what they were doing or where they were, although he does in a second refer to the 12-year-old kid.
And then he asks him why he's there. So Al briefs him that his name is, Frank Pistano?
He's Francis Giuseppe Pistano, known as Frank, and he's 2 years out of the seminary in his first assignment.
Yeah, this is St. Dorothy's.
Yes, and Sam says if he's here to stop a murder, he's too late.
Yeah, he says the kid's already dead, but Al informs him that it's not the kid he has to save, it's McRoberts, who will be killed in the next 36 hours.
Why would anyone want to kill a priest, Al?
Well, in Pennsylvania in 1963, it was probably fear of death by electrocution or even hanging. See, a month ago, Father Mac was one of 2 witnesses to a robbery and a store clerk got killed. This case goes to trial in 2 days, and the killer, one Tony Pronti...
He was at the funeral.
Oh, well, he probably killed Father Mac to keep him from testifying.
What about the other witness?
That's the kid you buried.
Look, do we know exactly when this Tony Pronti tries to kill Father Mac?
Well, Ziggy's having problems getting the details, but I'll get back to you as soon as he gets them.
I thought Sam was quite naive when considering the motive for killing a priest, asking why would anyone want to kill a priest. Now, in fairness, the scandals are far more prevalent and there have been
far more known. They're not more prevalent.
Yeah, sorry, yes. They're far more exposed now. However, I would still say that Sam is from the 90s, and even at that point, there would have been enough. There would have been enough knowledge and
suspicion around priests generally.
Yes, to think, you know what, there probably are in some cases reasons why someone might want to kill one.
Yeah, and it's one of these things that I always think people say this as if it's a knock on the religion or the faith, and I always think, no, it's because people who are that way inclined are drawn to that profession.
Yeah.
Like if you want to interfere with children, you would get a job that gives you access to children. Same as if you were a bully with a power complex, you would become a policeman or a referee.
Yeah.
It's like it's a personality type. It's not the fault of the church.
Well,
these people are drawn to the faith.
Yeah. Now, I know what you're saying there. However,
The cover-ups. are
the
part of the
cover-ups
church.
would go against that. The church is not innocent. It's not just bad apples going rogue. There was, as we know, there has been a systemic cover-ups, moving arounds, and all sorts over the decades, over the centuries, no doubt. So no, I would disagree there. That I think that having a go at the institutions and certainly in these type of cases do have merit.
Anyway, we don't have enough research done to get into this in too much detail today.
Well, I don't think we're saying anything that people don't know already.
Yeah. The other issue here is obviously Ziggy conveniently not knowing what's going on just when it serves the story. But I think they do acknowledge that later on in the episode.
Yeah, I think there's a little sort of nod there to the audience.
The contrivance, yeah.
Because you have to accept that with that Ziggy device, you should have...
if you're going to tell a story where it's important that Sam doesn't know, you need to... It's the same as like you've talked about this before, about episodes of TV shows these days or movies where people's phones need to be put out of order. Or
of course, yeah.
In Star Trek, the communicators had to stop working because otherwise it didn't make sense. So in this it's the same sort of contrivance, if you want that to be your plot.
Sure.
So what we heard there is that Tony wants to kill Todd because he witnessed Tony murdering a store clerk, along with Sonny, who's since been knocked off himself.
Yes.
So these are the two eyewitnesses, and if they're out of the picture, then Tony should skate on the murder charge. Why is Tony not in custody if he's on trial for murder shortly?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Who's paid his bail?
Yeah.
It's an interesting one. Anyway, I guess that's one of those other contrivances for the story.
Back in the church, after waiting for McRoberts to finish praying, Sam walks with him and asks if he wants to discuss what happened at the funeral.
He says he doesn't, but he suspects that Sam does, and it reminds him that in this business, things are never as bad or as good as they appear to be. What does that mean?
It's just nonsense. It's just, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Just deflecting from the point at hand. But at this point...
Yes, there's an act of God. A giant wooden cross tries to crush Todd, but Sam's able to knock him out of the way and to safety. And they hear footsteps, but after checking briefly that Todd's okay, Sam runs outside but can't see anybody.
So he returns and they both stare at the damage and take in what might have been. And we find them next in the office a little bit later. Sam is insisting to a cop that Tony is the person who he should be arresting and points to a motive, and that the cross apparently was tampered with.
Yes, however, the policeman quite rightly points out that without an eyewitness identification, there's little to go on here. Can they not check for fingerprints on the cross, or...?
Back then, not sure.
I don't know. Surely they did fingerprints in the 60s.
Yeah, but I'm not sure.
But they might not have Tony's fingerprint. Well, they must have if he's been charged with murder. Maybe, I suppose he could have worn gloves or whatever. Anyhow.
He, I think he also refers to him as a nutcase, the cop.
Yes, he'd love to get him off the streets.
Yeah.
He'd again think that having charged him with murder, that might have happened. But
Yeah.
no.
McRoberts himself, he agrees that they have no proof, and the cop says that he'll put a patrol near the church until this trial is over, so to keep an eye on things.
Sam's quite outraged. We never see that patrol, by the way.
No.
Despite multiple further attempts on people's life.
I don't think I've seen this episode before, and I assumed all the way through that Tony would be innocent. There'd be some other reason behind it. In fact, I thought it's a sort of cliche. I thought maybe Joey had accidentally done something while they're playing and Tony was taking the hit for his brother.
No, I was suspicious about the priest the whole way through. I thought he was maybe going to end up having been involved or directing things or being like the head of the shady group or whatever.
Sure. A group of what, ruffians?
Well,
Street
some
gang.
sort of mafia type thing.
Mafia. You're a racist just because they're Italian.
He's Irish.
No, but the kids are. Well, if he's Irish, then he can't be in the mafia.
It's not a mafia type thing, so some sort of group. So maybe he uses his boxing club to kind of get these kids on board and uses them for crime.
Okay, so wait a second, right? He's Irish.
I wasn't really thinking about their nationality at the
Mafia.
time.
There's some Italian kids, and they must be in the mafia.
No, I just...
Okay, well, we'll move on. We'll move on, Ethan.
We'll see what happens.
We know what you're sort of like.
Todd pours himself a drink, and Sam at this point tries to intervene, although he admits it's none of his business, and is told quite rightly, yes, it's none of your business.
We find ourselves outside a bar.
Well, there's a gear change here, isn't there?
Yes.
Very swiftly, Sam decides that despite being a chubby fat priest, he's going to head down to the bar and sort this out.
You would think he would get, dress in civvies for this. You don't have
No,
to.
he's got to go as a priest, because you wouldn't hit a priest, would you? Even though he's just seen one try to get murdered.
So this cab driver drops Sam off. I don't think he takes any.
He won't take a fare because he's so scared that Sam's going to get himself beaten up.
Inside, we see people dancing and drinking, and it's a fairly sort of low class bar.
It's quite a small sort of.
It's the type of place that back in the day when I like to drink, I would definitely be drinking in this bar.
Would
it's
you?
not trendy, yeah. It's just a good old fashioned boozer, yeah.
Local,
yeah. And we find Tony. He's kissing in a booth. So as we said earlier on, I thought he was 14, 15. He must be a bit older. He's in a pub and
he seems to be holding court if there's that sort of thing. He's not being approached by anybody without permission.
No.
At one point I thought, was Tony the guy that got married at the start? Was this his wife? But I don't think the priest would be getting involved with that.
No, he's not marrying a guy who he suspects is a murderer of one of his kids.
Anyhow,
Sam
and Tony have this sort of face-off, don't they?
Sam tells him they need to talk, and when he claims that he can't hear him, what does Sam do?
He unplugs the jukebox, and Tony tells him that it was very rude.
He tries to play it cool and says he must be there collecting for the parish, and asks his girl if she has anything that she wants to give him, but she's quite embarrassed, and Tony says she's already given today a couple of times. I'm not sure what that's referring to.
Yeah. Sam at this point grabs the girl by the arm and chucks her out of the way.
Tony's still putting up an act of bravado by insisting that he get to the point, as he is not an altar boy. He can't be sort of bullied or told what to do. Although he does hear there is an opening for one, so that's
provocative, yes.
Very.
He's referring also to Sonny.
Yeah.
What follows, I've noted, borders on comedy.
Yes.
It's almost slapstick.
Tell us about it.
So Sam tells Tony he won't let him kill Todd, and Tony says not to push him. At this point, it's like something like Batman. It's like you could hear the introduction music as Todd shows up out of nowhere, like a sidekick.
Yeah, it becomes a sort of buddy cop.
It's like Batman and Robin in a bar fighting people. He asks Tony about when he says he doesn't like to be pushed. Does he mean like he pushed that kid under the train? Which again becomes comedic the way it's been presented. And one of them, I think, possibly Todd, thumps Tony, who then grabs a bottle. But Sam uses the martial arts skills that we established in Another Mother to kick him in the head and knock him out. And at this point, the two priests are standing back to back, ready to take on all comers.
It's like an 80s karate movie where it's like a double dragon type thing or whatever it is.
So everyone's now scared of them and backs off. And I'm sure their reputation will be enhanced by this. But Frank's going to have to live up to this once Sam's away.
Exactly. Yeah.
We see Joey attending to Tony.
For some reason, Joey's there. Why is Joey hanging about the pub? Because he's definitely not old enough.
Well, we find out, or we've heard already, maybe that he's got nobody except his brother.
Yeah, but the pub still doesn't let you in. The bar shouldn't be letting you hang around.
Pub.
Why would it be their pub?
I don't know. Maybe they inherited it. I don't think so.
No.
I don't know. Maybe Tony's got that much
power. You can't inherit a pub.
Maybe he's like the Artful Dodger, Joey. He just kind of comes in and does jobs for Tony, and he's allowed in to do that.
Yeah. But just to be clear, I mean, from a licensing point of view, you can't have...
Yeah, I think, yes, we should write in and say that the licensing laws have not been observed in this episode.
Well, I mean...
Literally nobody's watching this thinking, the licensing laws wouldn't allow that kid.
I'm talking...
They'd be shut down.
Yes, I'm talking about your suggestion that inherited it. You can't inherit a pub if you're underage.
Yeah, okay. Anyhow, we head back to the wrong side of the track.
Yes, lightning strikes as Sam and McRoberts walk and talk.
How'd you know where to find me?
I saw you take the cab. I had a funny feeling and I followed you. Frank, where'd you learn to use your feet like that?
Old Chinese movies.
Old Chinese movies? Well, you sure made an impression on Joey.
I think I made a bigger one on Tony.
Yes, you did that.
That's a strange duo. I mean, how does a little guy like Joey end up hanging out with trash like Tony?
They're brothers, Frank. After the father died, the mother started drinking. Last I heard, she was out on the streets. Tony's the only family the kids got left. It's a shame. Joey's a good kid. He's a good fighter, too. I hate to lose him.
Maybe, if you can get him away from Tony, he might just have a chance.
This is where Sonny was killed, right under this bridge. They called me that night to come down and identify the body. What was left of it? It's ironic. Somebody that small leaves such a big gap inside you when they go. I gotta get a drink, Frank.
There is no way that McRoberts doesn't have a hip flask.
Exactly. Now, he seemed to be over-egging things again a little bit there.
In what way?
In terms of there being such a big gap left inside him by Sonny's death.
Yeah.
And then also the fact that he was called to identify the body.
Well, what I would say is that, yeah, if it might be too hard for he might not want the mother to have to do that.
Oh, maybe,
Hit by a
maybe it's the
train
mother
is-
that asked him. That would make more sense.
Yes.
They could maybe have said that, but the fact that he was the first makes it seem like he's the head of some cabal and there's some sort of shenanigans going on.
Or
the police are in on it.
Or he's the father.
Oh, yeah. Well, he is the father.
Yeah.
I've also noticed here, we talked about this earlier, he refers to Joey being a good fighter, which makes no sense in the context of what we've heard or seen so far.
Why?
We don't. In what sense is he a good fighter?
He's a boxer.
Yeah, I know that now because I've seen the whole
Well,
episode, but boxing's not been mentioned in the episode up to this point.
Has it not?
We saw a
Still.
photo of him as a boxer,
Yeah.
and he punched Tony in the bar, but he's not talked about coaching boxing. We've not seen the boxing ring.
Right, yeah. We haven't, have we yet? Anyway, we're back at the office.
Yeah, and Sam once again chastises Todd for drinking as he finishes a bottle and heads to a trunk to look for another one.
And while in there, we see that he has a Purple Heart, a Silver Star, and other commendations. This is his war chest.
Yeah, Sam obviously is intrigued by this, but Todd says he can have them if he wants them. He's more of a survivor than a hero.
So, what war would this have been? Korea? Or the second? Or
Koreans most likely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's
At this time.
Yeah, he's a bit too old for Vietnam, I'd have thought.
Yeah. I mean, if you watch Mad Men set around this time, they were all in the Korean War.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He recalls a vivid mission at Bloody Ridge where the enemy ran suicide squads at them and he lost count of the men that he killed.
This is his priest origin story.
I think he says, it might have been dozens or
He says 50 or 100.
100 or something like that. And he swore that he would spend the rest of his life making up for it, and that's why he became a priest.
He said that seemed like a good start to him, but he's not sure anymore whether he's doing anybody any good.
As he talks, Sam finds a handgun in this chest and insists that his feelings that he's not done good.
Yeah, that's sort of self-doubt.
Yeah, it's only natural, and all he can do is believe that in the long run he has made a difference.
Really? Is that all he can do?
No, he can do more than that.
Yeah, exactly. There's quite tangible evidence of things that you've done well or badly as you go through life.
I mean, again, you have to say as well, in fairness, that he's not just become a priest, he has invested heavily in the youth, and he's trying
we
to...
don't know that yet.
We don't know. Well, we know that now.
Yes.
So yeah, he's doing more. He is doing more. So this character knows. McRoberts knows at this point what he's done.
Yes.
So he has done more than just...
Yeah, he's just feeling sorry for himself.
Oh yeah, he's drunk.
He's drunk and a kid got murdered on his watch.
Yeah.
Essentially, as he sees it.
I'm not sure again why he'd be responsible.
No. Sam suggests they call it a day at this point. He's about to suggest a plan for the next day, but the older man is asleep in his chair, so he is tucked in. And
That's the TV, the movie cliche, isn't it? Just put a blanket over. Sometimes you take their shoes off, but yeah.
brushes his hair, brushes teeth.
Get in beside him.
He turns off the lights and then he leaves, and moments later we find him discover this boxing ring for the first time.
Yeah, this is very right hand of God.
Very much. And Al shows up and asks Sam whether it's past his bedtime, but Sam doesn't know where he lives, so he says, I don't have a bed, so I don't know.
I quite like that.
That was a good reference. But then, this is what I mean about Sam just being Sam in this episode. He doesn't even try to work out where does Frank live, what would Frank do,
Yeah.
who does he spend his time with. He might have a wife.
He's a priest.
He might have an illegitimate child.
Al asks about McRoberts, and Sam tells him that he's physically there, but his soul and his faith are diminishing rapidly.
Well, he's not saying anything about losing his faith.
No.
Sam's just made that up.
Yep.
Because that's his fear. So, someone might not believe in God. Oh.
Yeah. And Sam's also detected that Al's not been himself during this leap and has been acting like he doesn't want to be there.
Has he?
Yeah, he didn't come into the church. I think he was earlier on. We saw him make a sharp exit.
Yeah, we saw him leave. Yeah. Al explains. Okay, we can maybe explain this. Okay, he says he was put in the orphanage by his dad, as we've heard before.
Mm-hmm.
But he came back when Al was 10. That's not what we heard before. We heard he was taken up with the guy that played pool.
Yeah, well, he ran away a few times. Joined the circus, didn't he? And he played pool. Yeah, his dad made some money in Saudi Arabia and come back to get him.
He bought a house, then he got sick and turned out to be cancer, and he told Al to pray for him, which he did.
That's a stupid thing for someone to say to their son.
All you need to do, pray, I'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, you're setting this up for failure here.
Yeah.
He must have known that, your prayers won't help, and all I'm doing here is, this sort of
poisoning
damage.
the well here, essentially, yeah. So yes, Al lost any faith in there being a deity.
Yeah, he resents the church, or resents religion now because they didn't save his father. And have we got time for a second rant in this episode? Probably not on religion.
No, we'll save it for they'll come up again, I'm sure.
I hate the concept of praying because it is obviously it's garbage and you're begging. I mean, what sort of person you have to beg to? Oh, my child is dying. Can you please help me? Nope. And then the annoying thing is that. And the occasions where they do get better or something does happen,
I was going to say,
they attribute that to the prayer.
So God preferred your child to all the ones that have died.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
ridiculous.
Is that not begging you? I've got a dying child here. Please, God, help me. No, the child dies. Oh, well.
That was my plan all along. Screw you.
Oh, God.
So Sam says he forgot this about Al, but Al says, actually, I've never ever told you this. And then he leaves. And I've noted here, and you said this earlier, how is this different from Right Hand of God with the nuns?
It's just an inconsistency. They hadn't. They just made this whole backstory up for Al in this episode, because he was quite happy in the Right Hand of God episode. No issues whatsoever with
He's excited about the boxing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We hear a sound at this point, and Sam finds Joey, who's listened to that whole conversation from Sam's point of view and just thinks he was talking to himself.
I quite like that. Yeah, the scamp says he wants to talk to him, but he's happy to wait until he's finished his conversation with himself. Yeah. So he takes him to the office, and he struggles to find the light switch. I think Joey asks him if he's sure this is his room,
and he pulls out a cigarette and asks for a light at the age of 9 or whatever he is.
He then checks that the coast is clear and explains why he is there.
I want you to talk to Father Mac. Tell him not to rat on Tony.
Telling the truth isn't ratting.
If he takes a stand, Tony's gonna hang.
Your brother's young. If he confesses, he's got a good chance of beating the death penalty. But if it goes to trial, and the jury finds him guilty...
He ain't guilty of nothing but trying to stay alive.
Is that what Tony told you to say?
What, are you kidding? He'd kill me if he knew I was talking to you. You won't tell him, will you? I mean, priests can't tell things, right?
That's right.
Good.
He is, trying to stop Father Mac from testifying, though, isn't he?
I don't know.
I think you do.
Look, I just want things to be like they used to be. Before.
Before what?
You don't understand. Tony wasn't always like he is now. He used to do things. He used to go see the Phillies at Shibe Park. Pop worked there selling hot dogs on the weekend. Tony loved baseball. And Pop died. He never went back. He got mean, like he was mad at the whole world. I shouldn't have come here. Tell Father Mac I'm sorry about Sonny.
Why don't you tell him?
I've already done enough, Father. I really gotta go.
What is Sam talking about? Telling the truth isn't ratting? Yeah.
All ratting is telling the truth. If you're not telling the truth, it's not ratting, it's setting someone up or lying.
Yeah. Idiot. We're now in the boxing ring. Next morning.
Yes, Todd is training some kids. Turns out this is what he does.
Yeah,
it's been revealed.
Yeah, Sam enters and he watches on.
Al's there as well. He thinks that the coaching's fairly sound.
Oh, I was impressed. I did like Mac's enthusiasm, and he did genuinely. He wasn't going through the motions.
Yeah, no, he was right into it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Al, he's got problems with Ziggy giving specifics on when Tony tries to kill himself.
This is where Sam makes the point about Ziggy sometimes working and sometimes not.
Yeah. But we're told earlier on at the start that he had, 36 hours? He was going to die within 36 hours.
Yeah.
So that's all the information you need. If you want to, if your plan is to take...
Yeah, what else do you want to know? Yeah.
It's already been...
24.
24. So, you know he's going to die shortly.
Yeah. The kids are leaving at the end, and one of them says he won't be able to make the later session. He's got a job to do at the butcher's.
I'm not sure how I felt about this. I think I did like it.
Yeah, of course. Sam tells him he once saw a movie where guy used the beef at the butcher's as a punching bag. He can maybe do that, and it turns out the kid's name is Stallone. We've not had this since, I think, was it the Woody Allen one in season 1?
Yeah.
And we had Buddy Holly before that, so I quite like they're bringing this idea back.
We also had Michael Jackson.
Yes.
Little Mikey Jackson.
Were they all season 1? I think they were.
Mm.
He was Kamikaze Kid, that was at the end of the season.
Yeah. And I thought, the young actor playing this person, he had a sort of look about a young Stallone, and he had the same hat that he wears.
The accent.
Yeah, and the yo.
And it is Philadelphia. It's set in Philadelphia, which is where Rocky's set.
When did we find out it was Philadelphia?
They say at the start.
Did they?
Mm-hmm. I can tell you about something about that later.
Good.
Sam then tries to talk to Todd, but he insists that he's only going to talk to him if he does it while they're boxing, which is okay because Sam learned boxing from the nuns.
Well, I was going to say that. It should be fine. But, he's nervous and he agrees. But, he doesn't think they're going to do any damage.
I think we hear him thinking to himself that it'll be fine.
Yeah. So we cut back to him being jabbed in the face repeatedly.
Yeah. And his suggestion of a vacation for a couple of days has not been well received.
No, it's been received. It's been returned by these jabs.
Yeah. He's told that Todd will fight his own battles in his own way, and he knocks Sam to the ground. And
then orders him up.
Yeah, and I think at this point it turns out that maybe Sam was just letting him hit him.
You think so?
Because he immediately knocks him back down with a quick 1-2. Which leaves Todd looking shell-shocked.
Yeah, and at this point I think Sam suggests to him that he wants to die. It's like some sort of suicide.
Yeah, sort of machismo thing.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure he's expressed that at all.
He's not, no. I mean, maybe it's a slow suicide through drink, but...
He certainly doesn't want Tony to kill him.
No.
He says that he has to go and hear confession, but Sam tells him that he'll do it for him on this occasion.
Why would he do that?
Because he's sitting on the ground knocked out. And Sam wants him to sit and reflect on what they've discussed.
I don't buy this at all. There's no reason. Sam should be thinking to himself, I don't know how to take confession. I can't do this.
Well, it's okay because Al will tell him later on. But before that, we go back to the club we were in. Yeah,
for some reason, Tony and Joey are allowed to hang around this empty bar.
Yeah, Tony's loading a gun.
What's going on here?
Well, Joey's playing pool.
I know, like, I've been on an awful lot of really dodgy bars. Really scummy bars, like really.
Like Kilmarnock style?
Not that bad. Okay. No, Glasgow bars, right? There's some ones that have been pulled down now, and I love a really, really nasty bar. But even then, like the barman and that, if there's kids in there with guns, you'd be like, no, you can't be doing that. Like, get out.
Yeah. Joey suggests that they do things a different way. They could go to Canada. He hears it's nice there.
Yeah, Tony's not interested. He tells him that there is only one way to handle this. And Joey says he's wrong, and he wouldn't be doing this if their dad was still alive.
Tony gets angry at this and says that their dad was a loser who never cared about them because, and we're about to hear why Tony thinks this, wrongly thinks this. He says that their father killed himself. Yeah, well, okay, before we get to that point, Tony tells Joey that he was a loser, he didn't know anything, and that's why they didn't go to his funeral. Yeah. Joey argues back that he loved them, and an angry Tony asks at this point why he killed himself, and his brother claims this is a lie. But Tony goes a bit further. Yeah, he says that he hanged himself, and Tony knows because he's the one who found him. He says he was a coward. Oh, now, he's misinterpreted what's happened there. Tell me. Well, it's not cowardice that leads folk to kill themselves. They're mentally ill and well. Of course, yeah. But I thought there was something else other. Yeah, no. Tony's just taking it sort of a superficial reading of the situation. Sure. And it's affected the rest of his life. Yeah. I mean, this is you're thinking there is some sort of bond here, this brotherly love, but that was uncalled for. It was quite nasty. It's not just, I think, we saw that he sort of throws him onto the pool table and he pins him down while he's saying this. I suppose maybe it's just He's obviously got unresolved issues with this whole situation.
Well, it's shown here that if he can treat his brother like that, and there's that sort of element of violence and physicality as well, that he might well be the type of person who, under pressure or when he's angry, can do things.
And like you say, there's still sort of hints then that maybe he can be redeemed. Is there an arc for him here? But we don't see that.
We don't.
He grabs his coat, he grabs his gun, and he storms out while we go back to the church where Al is asking why Sam wanted to do confession.
Yeah, I think they're in the church garden, and this is when Sam says he wanted Mac to have a think about things.
Yeah, Al advises him to forgive everybody and not talk too much.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. What about penances?
Nah, he's not doing that. I don't know how confession works. I never went to a Catholic church, so I don't know.
Yeah. You tell all your sins, and then you get a set amount of prayers to say. Go and say 12 Hail Marys and an Our Father.
Right. And nobody verified whether your sins were true or not.
No.
So you didn't have to. But then you were probably given the fear of God that if you didn't tell the truth, you'd be struck down.
Used to make up sins.
Did you, just for fun?
Well, you wouldn't tell the real ones. what were you up to? Nothing. Nah. Anyway.
So the first confessor, I don't know what you call them.
Yeah.
Confessor. It's Tony. He confesses to 2 murders. Says it's been 10 years since his last confession.
And in fact, make that 3. At this point, why would you do it and like, he's taking a punt here, like doing it through a confessional. In the dark where you can't see. Just wait for him to come out and kill him. If you want to kill him in a church anyway, it's not like...
Yeah.
Just sit in the
pew.
In the pew, or whatever it is, the seating.
It takes long enough to get his gun organised that Sam's able to duck and we hope avoid the bullets. But when Tony runs off, Sam's lifeless body falls.
Well, it's not lifeless, is it?
Oh, it is at this point. His limp body falls through the door to the floor.
Al arrives back to hear a parishioner scream that he has killed him, and he slowly leans over his friend who has blood coming from his head. He tries to lift him, but obviously he can't. And at this point, he tries to find God again, speaks to the heavens.
God, don't do this. I swore I would never have anything to do with you again. But you can't do this. He's done too much. He's helped too many people. You can't take him like this.
Frank. God, Frank. Where am I?
Thanks.
You'll be all right, Frank. Now just lie still.
Did anybody see who did this? Who did this?
It was Tony. Tony Ponte.
Stay with him till the ambulance comes.
What happened, Al? I gotta stop him.
Ziggy had it all wrong. You weren't here to stop someone from killing Father Mac. You're here to stop Father Mac from killing Tony.
Killing Tony?
Yeah.
He must be delirious.
You gotta stop Father Mac. He's gone to find Tony.
I gotta stop him.
Yes.
Al.
Albert, he wants to talk to you.
Why does he want to talk to me?
What do I look like, a mind reader?
Ziggy says you're just stunned. It's nothing serious. So get up. Get up. Try and get up. Come on. Attaboy, get up.
Oh, no, Father, you really must move till the ambulance gets here.
That's it, Sam. Get up. Al, what happened? Well, Tony thought you were Father Mac.
It looks like Ponte was trying to kill you.
Where is he?
Where's who?
He's talking to me. Father Mac, he's on his way to the railroad tracks with Tony. Railroad tracks? Why would he? Sammy's got a gun.
That was quite fun.
Okay.
Bit slapsticky.
Yeah.
And I suppose, the tone's maybe not quite right. You know, this is a point in the plot, or what we're about to see, a priest about to kill or try to kill a youth.
Yeah, I like the fact that Al implies that God hands out death on a meritocracy basis. So he doesn't deserve to die, so save him. Whereas some of these other people, they're fine to die. I'm not going to worry about those.
Yeah, so from the window, Sam sees the Marcelli sisters arrive by car, and he stumbles out, nearly getting hit by a cab, and he borrows theirs.
Yeah, they're very keen to help, even though he's clearly bleeding all over the place and a bit dazed.
Yeah, but they're confused, aren't they? They don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, they hand over the car keys anyway, and they've got lovely white wall tyres on their car. Did you see that? That was nice.
Mm-hmm.
And we head off to the train tracks as Al yells to Sam that he's running out of time.
Meanwhile, Mac has a gun.
We've missed something here.
What have we missed?
Well, we've not missed it, but the episode's missed out how Todd gets Tony in this situation.
Gets him to the
train tracks, gets him on the defensive.
Yeah, maybe that's where he hangs about and he knows.
Yeah, we just grabbed him at some point, yeah.
He's got a gun stuck in his back and points out where they are. And he forces him to his knees.
On the train tracks?
Yeah. You should be used to that, eh?
Mm. Yes, I got there. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a good gap between them.
Yeah, he tells him it's confession time. As a terrified youngster looks at the approaching train.
Yes, and he tells Todd that he can't do this.
Yeah, well, he can do it, yeah.
He is doing it.
Yes, yeah. He says if he moves, they'll kill him. And Tony tells him that he's crazy. And he says, you're a priest. Yeah, of course, I'm a priest. You know what we can do. You know what we're capable of.
Nearby, we see Sam pull up and run out of his car, head in this general direction. I think Al points him the right way.
He does. Tony concedes and asks McRoberts what he wants him to do, but he cannot give him that.
Yeah, he says that he wants him to bring Sonny back. And he says, yeah, no, that's not possible.
No, I'm not God and neither are you.
Yeah.
And at this point, McRoberts removes his dog collar and asks God to forgive them both, and he's poised to pull the trigger.
He is, but Sam arrives just in time and tells Todd not to kill Tony.
Yeah, he says, remember, you're an eyewitness. If you do this, then, what's going to happen?
But he has to confess that he did not actually see the murder. He's been lying all along.
Oh, come on. Scumbag.
Because, and it wasn't clear to me entirely what he was saying, but I think what he was saying was Sonny saw the murder and was terrified, so Todd said that he also saw the murder to help calm Sonny down and support him.
Yeah.
Which is abominable behaviour.
Of course it is, yeah.
Anyway, Tony's quite surprised about this.
Yeah, he stands up. Yeah, well, firstly, what do you mean you didn't? Oh, you didn't? You.
Oh, I could have killed you. Oh.
He stands up, but McRoberts, he shoots at his feet, forcing him back down onto the track, and Sam insists that they can find another way and pleads with him to let him go.
And the train keeps coming.
Mac tells him that the scum is not worth it and that without witnesses, he's going to get off.
At the very last minute, however, Tony confesses and Sam's able to knock him to safety.
Absolutely zero chance that stands up in court. You can't have a train coming towards you.
Eyewitnesses.
You can't.
There was no train. They didn't see a train.
You can't point a gun at someone's head and say, confess to a crime, and then you go, okay, I did it. You go, there we go. That's just, and then, because Frank can't support that either in court and say, yeah, he admitted that it was good.
No, I'm pretty sure that from what we hear, he probably doesn't get convicted of the murder.
He does.
I don't think he does.
Yes, he does.
Well, let's talk about it when we come to that.
Okay.
part.
Right, fine.
Okay. So we skip ahead. We don't know how far. A couple of days at least.
2 days, yeah. We're at the boxing gym again, or the ring.
Todd is working out. He's stopped drinking now. He's got sober.
Yeah, he's a bit shaky because his body isn't quite used to it, but he's going to push through. He's going to get through the withdrawals, the DTs.
Sam tells him to take it one day at a time, a mantra that's not yet been invented.
Right,
which
okay.
he says he'll take on board and try to remember.
What's that? Is that the...
It's the Alcoholics Anonymous or something, yeah.
Okay.
He admits that he was wrong to try and kill Tony. 2 days later, he's finally admitting this.
Yeah. But Sam, he cuts him up, he stops him, and he says that he's got to hurry or he'll be late for Mass, and is thanked by McRoberts as he walks off.
Yes. And a hand on his shoulder and everything, yeah. And then Al shows up and tells him what happens in the future.
He says that McRoberts will be fine. He stays for another 20 years while producing 2 Golden Glove champions.
Yes, Tony goes to prison, but not the death penalty.
Didn't hang, yeah.
Yeah, so
but
there's no reason for him not to hang if he got convicted of that particular offence.
He said he'd done quite a bit of time.
Yeah, but it doesn't say what for. He could have done lots of crimes.
No.
If he's been convicted for murder, he gets a life sentence or he gets hanged.
There may be other circumstances. Yeah, no, there's other circumstances.
It sounds like he's out, because it says when he comes out, he turns his life around.
But he did say that he did a fair amount of time.
Yeah. But
a substantial amount.
You don't get a fair amount of time for murder.
Yeah, you do. I mean, you could do 10 years, 12 years. In this country, you could.
In this country? I don't know. I got the impression
maybe because his age as well. Maybe it was like...
Maybe a plea.
A plea.
Or something, yeah. I just got the impression that maybe it was a different crime. He was convicted of something else.
I don't think so. Or else he should have said that. Well, he didn't get done for murder, but don't worry, Sam. You get done for all these little petty crimes and you get...
You know that Sam doesn't care what happens to Frank in the future? Doesn't get told, doesn't ask. So, Frank was irrelevant to this episode. He just happened to be the body that Sam had to be in to get everything done. Joey does okay as well. Apparently sticks with Todd. We see the two of them talking.
Mm-hmm. They both agree that they did a good job, and Sam reminds Al that he prayed for him. And then he
taunts him, really.
Yeah, I wasn't keen on that.
No, just kind of rubbing his nose in. It's like, you can secretly believe in God, And he leaps into, turns out to be a photographer, face to face with a lion.
Yeah, a shoot involving this wild animal.
Taking a bit of abuse from the other photography subjects.
Indeed.
Do you think, that's the end.
Yeah.
Do you think that everybody got a fair resolution in this episode?
No, I mean...
Sonny didn't.
Sonny didn't, and McRoberts probably got off quite lightly.
For trying to kill a guy, yeah. Nothing happened to him. It's like, you're the perfectly fine guy to coach our kids, you psychopath.
Yeah, he shouldn't be anywhere near children.
No. At least until he proves his sobriety. Or
Yeah, an alcoholic who was quite happy to murder a kid.
Yeah, yeah. But only because he was mean to him.
Yeah.
I've noted here, how did Todd capture Tony? Shouldn't we have seen that?
We should have seen it, yeah.
Also, the whole thing with the teaching boxing should have been introduced earlier on.
Much earlier on, yeah.
And I've said here about Ziggy being contrived, but we've talked about that in fairly good detail already. Any other thoughts?
Enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought it was quite good, but it was kind of back to, away from the last two episodes, back to kind of the...
We needed that, I think.
Yeah, standard sort of fare. Yeah, it was enjoyable. And Sam didn't do anything particularly questionable.
No.
On this occasion. So that was good. Trivia?
Go for it.
Originally aired 12th of October 1990, directed by James Whitmore Jr. This was the second of 15 for him. The first one was Jimmy, so if you want to hear more about him, get that podcast.
Oh, by the way, you made a mistake. There was a omission last week.
What was the omission last week?
As soon as I heard the surname of one of the actors, I thought, is that? And then I checked and it was.
Who, what?
Grimwald was Ernie Lively.
Okay.
That's the famous Blake Lively. And then you've got her from the redhead from Karate Kid Part 3. What's her name? Blake Lively's married to Ryan Reynolds.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the father.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought you might have mentioned that.
Well, what's Blake Lively in? Is she that famous? Other than for being married to Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, carry on.
I can only apologise.
Yeah, don't let that happen again.
Okay. Back to this week's episode. Tommy Thompson, that's some unimaginative parents there, wrote the teleplay from a story for which he's credited alongside Karen Hall and Nick Harding. This is the second of 13 writing credits for Thompson. You can hear more about him on the podcast for Leaping In Without a Net. For Karen Hall, this was her only entry in the series. She wrote a number of episodes of MASH as well as Hill Street Blues, for which she earned multiple Emmy nominations. Her most recent screenwriting credits from 2011, including a couple of episodes of The Good Wife.
And the reason why I was reminded of that is because the director, James Whitmore Jr., is the son of James Whitmore, who's a famous
we probably talked about that in Jimmy.
Did we?
I can only imagine we did.
Okay. Yeah, he played Brooks in The Shawshank Redemption.
Yes. This is the first of two episodes that Harding is credited for. He was a producer on Murder One's disappointing second series, as well as on Picket Fences with David E. Kelly. He wrote for Murder One, Doogie Howser MD, and Law and Order SVU, amongst others. His most recent screen credits, 2003. So Todd was played by Sandy McPeak. This was his only Quantum Leap episode. Also, he appeared in the Adam West Batman series as a villain. He was in Knight Rider, Hill Street Blues, Murder, She Wrote. He died of a heart attack on Hogmanay 1997 when he was 61. Tony was played by Danny Nucci. This was his only Quantum Leap. He was fairly prolific, or has been fairly prolific.
Can you be fairly prolific? Is that not by definition you're prolific or not?
Yeah, he's been prolific. Yeah,
you said fairly prolific.
Well, some guys have done more.
Carry on.
In films, he's been in films like Titanic, World Trade Center, as well as series including Falcon Crest, The Fosters, and 911. He's now 54, still active. Joey was played by Davy Roberts. This was his only Quantum Leap. He only had a short screen career, which is not a surprise when you saw his performance in this one. But that included episodes of Doogie Howser MD and Beverly Hills 90210. His last screen appearance was in 1992, so he didn't stick with the acting very long. The Moncelli sisters were played by Erica Yon and Penny Santon, and one of these is more interesting than the other.
Within Fawlty Towers?
Not quite. So Yon appeared in shows and movies including An American Tale, where she was the voice of the mother.
Is that Five-O? Is that
yeah, Five-O Goes West and all that sort of stuff. She was in The Godfather Part 2 and one episode of Mrs. Columbo. She died in 2019 when she was 90. Santon was 12 years older. She was the older lady. She appeared on shows and films including West Side Story, Fletch.
What was she in Fletch?
Oh, Old Woman or something.
She must have been, yes, in Provo, Utah. She must have been the Alan's mother.
Okay.
Interestingly, Alan's father in that when Fletch, Chevy Chase, when Fletch goes to visit the parents in Provo, Utah, the actor, old man actor, who was in his 60s or 70s at the time, eventually got done for murder.
Oh dear. She also appeared in 2 Columbos.
Did you know?
Yeah. Do you not remember?
No.
She was Mama in Death Hits the Jackpot with Rip Torn.
Okay.
And in Undercover, she was Lucia.
Right.
She died in 1999 when she was 82. Trivia. Bit with the young Stallone as a Rocky reference. That's not great trivia. Okay, here's the one about the church. So the church that they used is not in Philadelphia at all. It's in LA. It's got its own website at sacredheartchurchla.org. There's a reference at one point someone references Bangladesh, but it didn't exist in 1963. It didn't exist until 1971, or it wasn't called Bangladesh.
No.
It was East Bengal or East Pakistan or something. In terms of things that we learned, obviously we've got Al's new backstory about his father and his father's death, and his loss of faith. What about On This Date? Do you have anything for us in terms of top of the charts or anything?
Yeah, that's all I've got actually. Number 1 in the US was Fingertips by Little Stevie Wonder. And Sweets for My Sweet by The Searchers was the UK counterpart.
John Stamos was born that day.
Yeah, I did see that, but
not that big a deal. You know, 10 days earlier, this is quite a lull this day. So 10 days earlier, 10 days earlier, great train robbery in the UK.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
9 days later, Martin Luther King Jr. did his I Have a Dream speech. This was a real lull of news between those two.
Yeah, I'm not giving it. Future, that's the last, okay? It has to be on the dates.
Doesn't that?
Yeah.
That's too specific.
It's not. That's the whole point
this
of it.
This episode took place over a number of days.
What happened in 1971? Anything at all? The decade, what happened in the 70s?
Lots of things happen.
Yeah, exactly.
We can bring in the closest ones.
Right.
Next week, One Strobe Over the Line. Is that a pun? What is that based on? Sam has to prevent a model succumbing to addiction, so we will see you in 1965.
Until then,
cheerio.
Bye bye.